Okay, Patrick McDonald is here, CBS Sports, my old friend from the amateur status days.
Oh,
It's
pull at the
we
heartstrings.
we miss you in the gambling space, man. What do I got to do to get a Patrick McDonald pick for this week?
I've been given some out, Andy. Don't worry about me. Joe Highsmith at the Honda.
Yeah,
The kid's kind of hot right now, and I
yeah.
finally recouped some of that Russell Henley money. Still down lifetime, but we're clawing back. So
You
things
know,
are going
those
well on
were
the gambling streets.
those were some of like the greatest days of early golf gambling Twitter when it was like me, you, PGA Tout, and Brian Kirshner before everything got so. I mean, and I'm talking about as like we were like the Twitter people. Obviously, like, Mayo
They're
and
real
Gaiman
people.
and whatever had that street. We were like the second tier kind of below ground niche gambling Twitter content of like my blog, your blog, PGA Tout's blog. Um, those were the freaking days, man. And then
Yeah,
yeah, and then everything
went corporate.
went corporate.
Went
Yeah.
corporate. Never go
You kind of
corporate.
went corporate too though, man.
Oh, I absolutely. I'm like leading the charge in the corrupt golf media right now. Are you kidding me? I'm working for CBS Sports. That is the
Ah.
the devil at this
Ah,
point.
what are they paying you under? What's Jay sneaking you under the table,
Oh,
man?
not enough, Andy. I'll tell you that much.
So you were there. Talk to me about it. We got a big, we haven't chopped it up in a while on just what the hell is going on in the pro golf world. And I'm fascinated to hear what your experience was like at the Players Championship this week. Was it your first time at Sawgrass? I know you kind of were in and out earlier in the week, but what was the vibe like?
Yeah, first time went in Monday. Monday was awesome because no one was there. It had just dumped. The course was closed, and so I just walked the golf course by myself, pretty much just up and down the fairways. People were asking me, they're like, "Are you a caddy?" And I was just like, "Absolutely, hell yeah, I am." The volunteers are like, "Oh, what player?" I'd just give them a new one every time. Uh, so I will say the funny part, like right off the bat, I have no idea where I'm going. And typically at tournaments, I'm a big ask for forgiveness, not permission, when it
Yeah,
comes to where you're allowed to go.
yeah.
Like, it's like, "Oh, I didn't know." You just kinda play dumb. So I walk into the media center, there's a nice lady there, she gives me everything, she's like, "Doors on your right, immediately shoot left." And attached to the media center's player training. I, like, open the door, 2 doors, open them wide open, and there's Jordan Spieth just doing squats right in front of me, making eye contact. I'm like, "Ah, fuck, I guess I gotta bet on this guy. He's the first guy I saw on property." And then everyone kind of rolled in Tuesday. Very hectic day with Jay Bird, Morikawa, and his
Did
vendetta
you hit?
against
Were you
Leah.
at that? Were you at that Monahan press conference?
Yeah.
Was it as chippy as I would have expected?
Uh, you have to give some of the media people their props for trying to get anything out of him.
Right.
But it was like after the fourth or fifth time of him saying, our focus is on the PGA Tour. Our
Yeah.
priority is on the PGA Tour. It's like, all right, guys, we don't need to do this dance again. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of rebounding and assist, right? Or blocks and assist. He swatted away all the important questions, and then people were asking him about other people. He's like, you should just ask them
Yeah.
and not me. So it was a nothing burger as to be expected, I thought.
Did you stick around for the Creator Classic at all on Wednesday?
I got out of town. It felt like the perfect Irish exit
Yeah.
opportunity. All eyes are on the creators, and I dipped immediately right then and there. Part in protest, can't believe I was not invited, and in part because it was just too good of an opportunity to leave.
um, to be honest with you, I mainly want to focus on the actual golf tournament and the results of the
Mm.
golf tournament. But just to put a bow on like the macro uh, discussion of what the players is in 2025, your first time being there, it's still an event that I've never attended. I know I got to make it down there. We had a bunch of people on our team make it down there and watch this week. But do you think it's working? Like, do you think that the PGA Tour, how would you grade the PGA Tour on this as their flagship event? Because a lot of people, generally it seems like it's one of the most fun fan experiences on the PGA Tour. Obviously, they have that golf course. They dial up that golf course they've Augustified the shit out of that golf course to the point where not a blade of grass is out of place and it presents so well on television. Do you think the players is working? Are you kind of in and out on are you picking up everything that it's putting down?
Well, I think I went to the one where there wasn't a ton of outside noise attached to it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, really, ever since COVID, you had the one coming out of COVID, then you had murmurs of live golf, and 22 was shitty weather. 23
Yeah.
was live golf. Like, even last year, there was some live golf attached to it too, and the trickle down effects of the announcement of the framework agreement also. And so I felt like this one, everyone was kind of more laid back. I thought it was a really well put together event. I will say it's kind of weird to look. I think the Creator Classic's great. Don't get me wrong. I do think it's kind of weird to do it at a quote unquote fifth major.
Sure.
Like can you have that at a tournament you want to be called a major championship, or put it on that level? Where, I mean, I talked to a few guys who were not happy that those guys were playing Wednesday afternoon, and they wanted to be on the back nine instead of them preparing for
Yeah.
the tournament. And so I think it was great through and through. The rookies had a great time kind of in that first timer press conference thing. I thought that was awesome to introduce them to the media that way. It was really cool to be part of that and meet some of those guys. But I think really it kind of got on out of the other end of this storm and turned into a really great event. I loved it
Yeah.
as part of the media, and I do have a test at these events based on how good the event is, just based on how good their chairs are in the media center,
That's a huge one. Have you ever
and
been in the
they're
Tory?
fantastic.
Have you ever been in the Tory Media Center?
I have not.
It's
Good
not
or
good.
bad?
Not
Mm,
great. Not great.
mhm.
I mean, I have less of a sample size with these than you do, so I don't know. I don't have much to compare to, but I would imagine the players pulls out all the stops, right?
Yeah,
In
like
terms
the
of dining and
food
such.
was good. Brought in local coffee shop to whip up lattes and espressos for everyone. So no complaints on that front at all.
Do you think that transitioning into the actual golf probably is close to a good result as the PGA Tour could have hoped for with Rory McIlroy winning? Monday finish. Not going to dive into a whole ratings conversation, but I mean, wh- what did you assess of what did you make of Rory's victory?
Yeah, I think from a PGA Tour's perspective, it was perfect because you had also JJ Spawn in the mix, and all those other storylines like Bud Colley, Danny Walker, who was like a waiter, I guess. And so you have those factors of the PGA Tour, which they harp on. I know some people are bitching and moaning that they're taking some of those away. And then you also had the superstars in the mix, like Rory McIlroy, you know, calling a little bit there before Saturday happened. And so I
Colin
thought it,
and Scotty were kind of always on the periphery of this tournament
yeah.
without ever they were loitering.
Mhm.
They were around, but there's never a moment in the week where I said to myself, "Oh, Scotty's winning," or
Yeah.
even "Oh, Colin's winning."
They did their best Patrick Cantlay impression, both of
Yeah.
them,
Like,
and very well.
by the way, Cantlay did a phenomenal Patrick
Yeah.
Cantlay impression.
Yeah.
So did Fleetwood. Like everyone was in mid-season form.
Yeah, really played their roles. So I mean, it was perfect for the PGA Tour, right? You're coming off a year where Scottie Scheffler won 9 times, and people like us probably enjoy watching history and
Mhm,
watching him go on an all-time run. That's not the majority of people. The
mhm.
majority of people want to see Rory McIlroy win. They want to see Justin Thomas play well like he did on Friday. Jordan Spieth do crazy shit like he did throughout the week. And you factored all of that in and you got all of that. So I think it was perfect if you're the PGA Tour, except for the weather delay and the Monday finish.
I'm going to ask you the most first takeified question out there, but how do you feel about Rory villain narrative, right? Like there was this major story that emerged with him earlier in the week with taking the dude's phone, who we later found out was like a stick, a
Insane
really good,
story.
a really good college golfer. And that story made the rounds and probably even permeated past the golf world into like the larger sports ecosystem. That was a major talking point this week. Do you think that this had, do you think Rory's like trying something different? Is it bulletin board material? Is the guy trying to create some sort of chip on his shoulder, or are those two events completely uncorrelated and it's like the worst version of sports takedom to try and psychoanalyze Rory's positive results as in any way correlated to that single event that happened during the practice round on Tuesday?
Do you think Rory McIlroy is gifting Luke Potter practice round tickets for Augusta?
Yeah, I know. Bring
Just
back
following
Luke.
around, just
Yeah,
following
bring
around
back Luke.
and
Yeah,
yelling his ears off.
seriously. Seriously.
Is Rory trying to become a villain? Like, is he purposely
Or
leaning into
maybe
the heel?
yeah, or maybe even is he in a different era, um is he in a different era of his relationship to the broader golf world, right? Is he kind of in fuck it mode a little bit where it's like I've been the biggest talking head for you guys for the last 2.5 to 3 years on the merger live talk, and it got me absolutely nowhere. It didn't raise my professional opinion from most people. In fact, I took so much more flack for this than anyone else when I was the only one that was being asked these questions and giving you my honest answer on all of them, for better or worse. Do you think he's reaching a point now where he's just kind of going in a different direction, and there's a little bit of spite there with Rory?
I do think there's probably some chip on his shoulder, not a large one.
And I think athletes like try to manufacture that, right?
Yeah,
Like
sure. Yeah. I do think though Rory McIlroy suffers from an extreme case of recency bias, just like in his golf uh, playing and also him talking to the media. It just seems like whatever happens, he'll lean into it
right now.
immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, and then down the road, he'll be like, "Oh, that actually was not correct
And
on me."
that does him absolutely no favors when you have like a malleable situation.
Correct. And so you look at his quotes just about how he wants to play golf. In 2019, it was like, I want to play like Brooks Koepka. Now it's like, I want to play like Scottie Scheffler. And then he
There
says,
was almost even a little mini era in there that I would mention, just to piggyback on your point of where he was trying to chase what Bryson was trying to do.
yes, that's a very good point too. And so that has like trickled into him with the media where one week he's like, I really don't want to talk about stuff right now. And then the next week he just goes on and on and on because something new pops up in the news. And so you saw it almost this week where the incident or whatever happened on
Right.
Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, he's just picking fights with the old guys on the Champions Tour after that. Thursday comes around and the video leaks and he's like, I don't want to talk about this. Even though the very day before he was spewing about everything.
Right.
And
Right.
so I just think he has an extreme case of recency bias in like everything he does.
My brief thoughts on the quote unquote incident. I think it's just a big a lot of people ask me about this because I am a Rory fan and have defended him quite a bit in the past. Um, I think it's a big L for both. I mean, if I'm
Yes.
trying to think about it from the college kid perspective, and I don't know if this is unique to me at all, but I've been going to sporting events since I was like 5 years old. Like I've been to dozens of professional golf tournaments, and it's just been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember, dating back to like how my dad and I bonded going to Yankee and Knick games as a kid when I was growing up. And not one time in my entire life have I ever experienced the impulse to like say something to an athlete. Like I've never had that impulse in my life. That's a foreign feeling to me. Like I've never experienced the impulse, and I am a diehard sports fan. I've never experienced the impulse once to tweet at an athlete, like talk shit to an athlete, yell at an athlete, really like interact with an athlete during their craft at any point. So it's just like an ecosystem of sports fandom that I deeply just don't relate to. It's like just it's never been something when I would go to sporting events, like the people yelling mashed potatoes or yelling anything. I just like deeply do not relate to those people and the impulse that they have to do that as a sporting event. But maybe that's just me. And then for the guy to also be like an unbelievable golfer that is on the trajectory to be a professional golfer and play on the PGA Tour. Like my second cousin is a great collegiate tennis player. He was like the number one tennis player at University of Texas, and now he's working his way up through the Challenge Tour. And I talked to him a lot about like getting mentored by your Tommy Pauls and
Mm,
your Taylor Fritz's and the
mm.
cohort of American tennis players.
Maybe
And
more
maybe
TP than
he's
Fritz,
he's
hopefully.
he's probably leaning to the TP camp more. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, well, the broader point is that like the concept of him like trying to go at a professional person in the craft that he is attempting to be in, that feels like a very odd choice to me. Now, it's a massive L for Rory too. I
Yes.
mean, truly, I think that I and you, I'm sure, because you tweet stuff all the time too, get called ridiculous things on Twitter, and I'm sure that what Rory experiences online, on site is so much worse than any of us could ever imagine. But I mean, come the fuck on, dude. You've been doing this for 2.5 decades. Um, and there are so many millions of different responses that you could have to that situation, even in an incredibly human moment when it gets under your skin. Because this stuff does get under athletes' skin. I mean, they'd be lying to you if it doesn't from time to time. Some have thicker skin than others, right? But I kind of walked away from that. Like I don't get the impulse to do it in the first place, and I get the response almost less.
You're right where they both come away as losers. The fact that this kid just won a college tournament is top 60, I think, in the
He's
amateur
really
ranking.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's going to be eligible for PGA Tour U next year. And the problem, like that by itself, is just so fucking weird. Where there's a chance, who knows how good this guy plays next year, that he goes through the PGA Tour U and he's
Yeah.
on the PGA Tour in the not so distant future. But if you're Rory McIlroy, you go up and you steal that guy's phone, you enable like everyone else, and you come across as the douche. That guy posts that video. 5% of people are probably on his side,
Right.
max. I
And,
look
and
back
if
there.
you're Rory, this is getting picked up everywhere.
Yeah, like there's cameras on you 24/7. And there's a video at maybe Torrey Pines, and it was to Zach Johnson. I don't know if you saw it. There's some pipsqueak on the ropes saying, You lost us the Ryder Cup. You
Yeah.
lost us the Ryder Cup. And the caddy came over and was like, dude, just shut the fuck up. And everyone was against the guy with the video.
Yeah.
Posted it. He thought he was the man. Turned out, guess what, kid? You're not. And that's probably what would have happened. But Rory instantly became the bad guy. And he's also enabling future people to keep on trying it. Because guess
Right.
what? You might get a reaction out of Rory McIlroy.
Which is
How
exactly what
cool is
they're
that?
looking for. Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they're looking for. And that's what anyone on Twitter is looking for, right? Like
Yep.
even if you just think about like the ecosystem of online trolling, often what they're looking for is just they're so small in life and
Nothing to
they
lose.
and they're looking for you to acknowledge their existence. So when you acknowledge their existence by responding, you actually let them win. And I'm not perfect with this. Nobody is. Nobody that gets any form of criticism gets it perfectly, because every once in a while you're going to get caught in the wrong mood at the wrong time, and somebody is going to say one thing and catch you at that perfect moment where you're like already up against that edge. And this just could have been a moment for Rory where he was like, that's fucking it. Like I'm
Yeah.
already up against that edge. Unfortunately, when you're a professional athlete and one of the best golfers in the world, the standards are a little bit higher in those circumstances in terms of how this is going to look for you going forward. So anyway, we don't need I to be honest with you, I'm more interested in talking about, but I people were asking me about this and I didn't get to speak on it. So I did want to address
He
it
didn't
a little
handle
bit.
it well after the fact too,
No,
my
he
opinion.
didn't. I thought the way that he responded to the
I don't wanna
question,
talk about
that
this.
was
Why are
kind
you
of
asking me
bullshit
to?
too.
Yeah, no, it's like he came off as a mega douche doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, more so this is more my lane to talk about, to be honest with you, and what really is more fascinating than the psychoanalysis of Rory. You think it's interesting that he's played his best golf this year at um, positional golf courses that take driver out of your hands? Like, how do you explain that? These are the two. I'm a certified data boy, and I break down these golf courses from a data perspective till I'm blue in the face. I mean, these are amongst like Rory, talent always trips course fed. He could win anywhere. He could win in a random field, with windmills everywhere. But compared to like Torrey Pines and Bay Hill, these are not the golf courses that Rory is starting on second base via his greatest weapon, power off the tee.
Yeah, I think what it shows is, this is gonna sound like very dumb coming out of my mouth, that he's just a much better golfer than he has been in a very long time. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the numbers or anything, or the off the tee
You're
prowess
talking about
or
the act of like getting the ball in the hole and playing
yes.
shots. And
Yeah,
Sawgrass maybe forces him to do that.
correct. And I was talking to Homa about his game last week, and he was like, I'm hoping Sawgrass can kind of unlock that in me. He's like, I've
Yeah.
been playing so much golf
Golf
swing
swing. Yeah.
for the past year that I need to learn how to play golf now with this new
Mhm.
swing that I have. And he's like, and I can't play golf at the moment. And people were commenting like, yeah, no shit, dude, you can't play golf. You're shooting 80 at Bay Hill. You're doing this and that. But it's like, you understand what he's talking about
Yeah.
at the same time. And so I think it just shows that Rory, I mean, this talk about recency bias. I'm falling into it here too. It seems like it's the best golf that he has played in a very long time. Just pure golf, strategy wise, learning from his mistakes on the fly. Like on Saturday, made a dumbass mistake hitting driver on 9.
Yeah.
No idea why I did that. Laid back the next day. And just simple stuff like that, it adds up. And you throw in all the experience he has, and it just looks like he's playing the best golf right now.
Yeah. It's almost like when you neuter a little bit of his greatest weapon, like I think Rory thinks that the way for him to win golf tournaments sometimes, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like Rory has been told that he's the best driver maybe ever for his entire career. And so when he goes to a golf course like Bay Hill or Quail Hollow, or even Augusta is a golf course that really baits you into hitting driver a lot. And
Mhm.
Augusta has enough width that you could really whale away with driver at Augusta, and give yourself a significant advantage off the tee based on your power, right? As you could also win Augusta by hitting golf shots and playing off the tee the way that Sawgrass forces you to play off the tee, right? And it's almost like these golf courses that feel a little bit antithetical to what Rory does best. You're right. They kind of force him to play capital G golf as
Mhm.
opposed to like capital T TrackMan. And of course, like we're over analyzing. That's what that's what you do in podcasts. But it's fascinating to me that Pebble Beach and TPC Sawgrass, which are, I mean, truly on the PGA Tour, like two of the least long iron intensive, least driver intensive, antithetical golf courses to what Rory is the best in the world at, which is long iron play and power off the tee. And these are his two victories. I don't know what that means for Augusta at all. I mean, Augusta is a wildly different golf course than TPC Sawgrass and Pebble Beach. There's some similarities if you want to reach, but I don't know what this does for him at Augusta at all, personally.
Well, he definitely has Augusta on his mind, I think, because of, everyone was talking about his driving this week and how bad it was. And he hit less than 50% of the fairways.
Yeah.
But I actually looked at it and saw a guy who refused to miss left.
Yeah.
Absolutely refused to miss left. And someone asked him about it because he hit 4 fairways on Thursday. They're like, "What are you doing, man? Like, is it because you just put, the old driver back in the bag? What's going on?" He's like, "No, I'm hitting this little cut out there." The one time he missed left on Thursday, he tried to step on one on 16, the par 5, and blew it into the trees, overhooked it, whatever. But outside that, it was a heavy dose of right, and you look at Augusta National, you can't miss left there. You
No.
just can't. You cannot miss left off the tee. And even if you look at, I mean, this is going like probably too deep, but look at the US Open last summer, and everyone talks about the putting. What no one really talks about is the decision making and the ball striking down the stretch.
Yeah.
And look where he missed at Pinehurst number 2. It was left off
Long on 15,
it
left
was
on 18. Yep.
left on 14, left into the green, left and long on 15, left on 17 into that par 3, had a nice up and down. The decision to hit driver on 18 was head scratching at best, missed left there too. And so it seems to me that he understands, like, I can get away with missing it right with how good the rest of my game is. And so that was honestly my biggest takeaway from the week. Everyone's talking about these chippy, knockdown, sawed off irons. To me, it's he's finally like realized, like, if I just blow it right, the rest of my game is still good enough to compete, because he didn't have his A game either this
Yeah.
year or this week either.
By the way, that's like called playing golf too. I mean,
Yeah.
pure driving accuracy is a super misleading stat because a
Mhm.
lot of the time players would much rather be on one side of the fairway in the rough than they would be on the other side of the fairway, in the fairway. A lot of times players, and I certainly know Rory falls into this camp, um, hitting pure fairways isn't the goal. Putting yourself in the correct position off the tee to mitigate risk, and optimize your scoring, which it seems like Rory is doing right now. Like he's just getting the ball in the hole right now on golf courses that don't give him a significant advantage over the rest of the field, right? I mean, like the playing field for Rory at TPC Sawgrass is closer to level with somebody like, I don't know, Tom Hoagie, who finished T3, right? Like they're on more of a level playing field at TPC Sawgrass then Rory McIlroy and Tom Hoagie would be at Torrey Pines or Oakmont because one player hits the ball 30 yards farther than him. Do you think that he's the best player in the world right now? Do you think that in a vacuum, he is more likely to win the 2025 Masters than Scottie Scheffler?
So the last 3 years, the best player in the world has won the Masters, right? Scheffler in 22, Rahm in 23, Scheffler in 24. So I think the
It's
one
also the
thing,
DJ COVID year, right?
sure,
Hideki's the
yes,
outlier. DJ COVID year was the same Scheffler thing we got the
yeah.
last 2 years. Yeah.
And so you think about all that, right? Scheffler, Rahm, Scheffler, DJ intertwined in there. And I think that doesn't bode well for someone like Rory because Joaquin Neiman's the number 1 player in the world.
Ah, I knew you were going here, man. Yeah.
So that's the one downside if you're Rory. But if I had to choose right now, is Rory McIlroy the best player in the world right now? I think he's playing the best golf right now. So yes, do I think he has a better chance than Scheffler to win the Masters? That is really freaking tough because we have seen forever, it seems like, that a different Rory McIlroy just shows up at Augusta National.
He
I'm
sure
praying to
does.
God he doesn't change anything. Like you think about what he's done leading into it. He's changed his entire lead up multiple times. He's played 1,000 practice holes. He shot 1,000,000 under in his practice rounds at Augusta National. Oh my God. He showed up late last year, right?
By the way,
Bob
I went to the Masters last year. I watched his practice round on Wednesday afternoon with Ludwig. I was like, this guy's the best person on the freaking property. And literally, him and Ludwig combined for like a best ball 29 on the back nine, 12 hours before the freaking Masters started. And he hit his first tee shot. I was standing right there with my dad on one fairway, and he had the shoulder slumped, and he was and it was like
it's over.
he got freaking body snatched by the 78th ranked player in the world. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah, he wants it way too bad, which you understand. But you got the 11th hour Bob Rotella flying in for a one-on-one session. A few years ago, it's the putter at the match play. Let's throw a Scottie back in the bag for some odd reason. Wasn't feeling creative enough on the greens, and so there is still some time. It sounds like he's going to play Houston.
Interesting. Houston over San Antonio. That's Houston's kind of more like Augusta than San Antonio is with the overseed now. So I guess I could see it from that angle. But the thing with Rory is we have enough of a sample size. We have a 20-year sample where quite literally everything that could possibly happen to Rory leading into Augusta has basically happened. Right. Right. So it's like, well, Rory was bad leading into Augusta, and we have results from him playing bad leading into Augusta and almost winning the Masters. Rory's playing good leading into Augusta. We have results from him shitting the bed completely at the Masters. I will definitely say this is the first time that Rory's won the Players before the Masters. And if you remember from last year, prior to last year, there had never been a guy to win the Players and the Masters in the same year before Scottie did it last year. So, it is total glass half full, glass half empty. Wherever you want to go with it, you could create an argument for it, right? Did he blow his load too early, right? Or is he going to follow the Scottie trend?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's for me, it's just the last time we saw Rory in legitimate contention at the Masters was 18.
Was that the Patrick Reed
Patrick
year?
Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final group with him and talk about shit in the bed there. And so you say it every year. It's, dude, just break 70 on Thursday. You got to figure out a way to break 70 on Thursday and not throw away this championship 18 holes into it. Give yourself a chance on Friday to feel something you haven't felt in half a decade now, which sounds absolutely crazy to say.
Yeah.
So he is the king of peaking too soon. He's absolutely the king
Yeah.
of peaking too soon. 1 week too soon. Honestly, you look at where he's won 4 major championships. He's returned to 3 of those. The week before his return at each of those sites, he won.
Mm-hmm.
He won that golf tournament. He won the Scottish over Bobby Mack.
Yep.
He won Wells Fargo last year before Valhalla, and he won before Kiowa in his last start too. It's
Mm-hmm.
You can't make that shit up. It's one part sad and one part hilarious.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's just a different Rory McIlroy, but you sound insane saying that also.
Of course. And
Yeah.
I this is the last thing I'll say in it because I want to transition to one more topic before we get out of here. But if I'm going glass half full, um, Rory, Scottie, and Xander were paired together at last year's Masters for the first 2 rounds. I followed them on Thursday and Friday. And Rory, Scottie, Xander were paired for the first 2 rounds at this year's Players Championship. And I don't know if you remember this, but last year's Masters, it was Friday afternoon, got really windy. And Rory, Scottie, and Xander had an afternoon tee time. And it was like some of the most difficult conditions that players had seen at the Masters in quite some time. I don't know if you remember that Friday afternoon, but it was like really firm and windy. And it was just a true throw your freaking data out the window. How the fuck are we going to find a way to get the ball in the hole? And you had to play like capital G golf shots. Okay. And I remember following that group and being like, Rory just doesn't have the shots. Okay. And Scottie freaking dog walked him that day. Like Scottie won the tournament on that Friday afternoon at the Masters. And it wasn't that like the ball sounded different when Scottie hits it than Rory or Xander at all. Scotty's eye test isn't anything like better than the way that Rory and Xander find the center of the club face themselves. But it was just like there's one person that has the answer key to this test, and Rory just doesn't have the answer key. Like a wind gust would pop up and Rory would hit the ball too high and it would hit its apex in the wind and like combat, and Scottie would just hit like these low bullets and miss in the perfect spots. It's so crazy how much, a 8-month difference can make, because you look at Scottie out there this year at the Players and he was like playing the Rory role from last year's Masters. He was getting super frustrated about the conditions and was kind of being a whiny bitch about it, to be honest with you,
Oh,
man.
very.
Like he was acting like he was the only person in the world playing this outdoor sport. And even a couple times, like on the broadcast, he'd be like, I don't understand. The
Oh,
wind is not
that was
supposed to do
horrible.
that to the ball.
It's like a 50-yard pitch. He's like, "How does that wind not touch that ball?"
I know.
It's like,
I
dude, it
know.
got like 4 feet off the ground. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. There is a moment in the 11th fairway in that second round where the wind's blowing into them. Scheffler hits a flighted mid iron, long iron, center of the green, exactly what you're supposed to do. Rory launches his wet. And it was just like that moment, you're like, that's the difference.
Yep.
Clear as day. That is the difference between the two of them right now. And so it seems like Rory has added those types of shots to his bag. He said his best shot of the tournament was that 4 iron into 2, little flighted up the hill to 10 feet for eagle yesterday.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where obviously the wins at Pebble and Sawgrass, all that, but having those shots, that's the cause for the hype train being overloaded at the moment. People are hanging off the edges like it's going to Hogwarts or something for the first day of school.
Okay, so I've got five 5 to 10 more minutes, do you want to do Joaquin Niemann or do you
Mm.
want to do like other guys at the Masters, right? Do you want to talk about like the state of Ludwig, Rahm, Xander, whatever, or do you want to rev up the Niemann hot take machine?
I don't think we need to do. We don't need to do Neiman, right? I mean, he is hot. The kid's hot. Don't get me wrong. 4 straight top 40s at Augusta. You
Yeah.
gotta love that form going in. And the thing is, like, I'm a
Cut maker.
I'm a massive Neiman guy through and through, but it's
Yeah.
almost like I understand the subsection of people, and I think I fall in this where it's become more difficult to root for Rory because of some of the off the course talking
For
and just
sure.
yeah, just coming off
For
as
sure.
a bit of a douche.
For sure.
And I think Neiman, him talking this way, last year is all the OWGR talk and the major talk, like, oh, how could I be the best player in the world if I'm number 70 in the OWGR? And it's like, dude, you're not doing yourself any favors right now. You're
Neither
just
is his fan base, by the way. Like his
no,
fans aren't helping him either.
no. Like I love his game. I love the way he shapes shots. I love all of it, except when he starts talking. It
Yeah.
just gets beyond annoying. Like we've been through this. Everyone's over it. Move on, play your golf, and show up at a major championship for once. So it's a big stage for him, obviously, being the number one player in the world. That comes with a lot of added pressure, especially when Phil Mickelson's in your corner too. So we'll just see.
The only
Tee the
thing
ball
that
up and let your
yeah,
golf do the talking.
yeah, the only thing that somebody made this joke on Twitter, and I'm not going to properly credit it, but it's like, what does Phil know, right? Like what like Phil generally for Phil to be long on
Long
why is
Neiman, short Scheffler.
yeah, what's the pump and dump plan on Neiman here from Phil?
I can't believe he's doing that before Scheffler's feeding him too.
I know,
Like,
seriously.
that tortilla soup's gonna be a little too spicy. A little too spicy again.
Okay, so let's finish on this then, because I'm starting to get super psyched for the Masters, and I'd rather talk about that than Valspar. I'm gonna give you like we'll do 3 to 4 of these, but I'm gonna give you 2 players, and I want you to tell me who you think is more likely to win the Masters. So I want to start. I want to start with this one. Colin or Rom? Good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
That is a very good one. What has John Rahm been doing? I know he doesn't finish outside the top 10 at Live Golf, never has, which is, of course, impressive. But let's see, missed the cut in Dubai to start the year. Decent on the DP World Tour before that. God. I think I'm going to go with Colin. Just because oh god. It's a good one and it's like, oh, you're picking between two-time major champions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, oh, these guys. So I'll go with Colin. I think he's a much more well-rounded player than we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
From Colin Morikawa. And so I think in that regard, he's better suited for Augusta. And he has been a guy that you can rely on, even without his game, to show up at a major championship. Like last year's Masters, like was it the 22 US Open at Brookline, where he was the 36 hole leader and was hitting a draw for the first time in his life. And so the fact that his game's in order, and it seems to be very much mental. I don't buy into the fact that he has poo-poo pants and can't close. I just don't.
And even just to piggyback on that, it feels very Xander last year, where it's like, okay, even he should have closed a little bit more. But what we can say about Colin is that statistically, this is probably the most complete golf that he's played in his entire career. And it's kind of like feels a little Xandery, where it's just like, yeah, you're probably never going to get like a great betting number on him because he is just the data is going to be continually so strong. And so what's your tolerance point of like how much you want to keep investing in this guy week to week? Because his odds are never going to get that much worse because you just keep playing such good golf. And then, right when everybody is like, I'm fucking done with Xander, man. It's like, Henley to a little bit too. Like Henley was a
Throw them
top
all
10.
in the same category. Yeah.
Henley was like
Shoffley, Morikawa, Henley.
yeah. I mean, and it's just like, I feel like Morikawa has just reached this point right now where the best argument against him is he's not winning. And it's like, I totally get that, but he's also is developing into like the player with the second or third highest floor in golf when there are guys in his price range like Ludwig, like Xander, who like still miss cuts all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't want to penalize Colin too hard for finishing like T11 every week.
Yeah, it felt like he missed every single left to right 7-footer this week, and he finished T10.
Yeah.
And so I'll roll with Colin, but it's also tough. I mean, Rahm's such a beast. He's such a beast, and
I love Augusta for him too.
Yeah,
like
and he's a dog at Augusta, and probably has a little fire in his belly after last year, completely laying an egg. Not only there, but in general, the major championship season. I know he finished top 10 at the Open. And so I'm very interested to see how him and Brooks, to an extent, rebound off a very bad major season.
we could rapid fire this one because we already touched on it. You'd probably pick Ludwig over Neiman, right?
I would, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really like when guys contend the prior year at the Masters super heavily.
Okay.
It's like there's a weird trend of like every other year.
Okay.
Of course, Scottie breaks everything, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Ludwig coming off contending so closely in his second appearance, but I would still say in a vacuum, I'm still probably more long Ludwig talent than Neiman. Okay, final one, and then the last one is like we'll take a second. Two players with some questions around their game right now, more likely to win the Masters as we stand here today, Xander or Bryson? Xander coming off an 81.
He goes
But
77, 81 over the
over the
weekend. Was that it?
weekend, yeah.
Okay. I'm man, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
I don't like that you're doing this to me. I'm gonna go with Bryson.
Yeah.
It just seems like even Xander, when a guy admits that his game's in disarray, aka dog shit at the moment, like he did on Friday, and then he proved it over the weekend.
Yeah.
That's tough. And with Bryson, at least, he's driving the absolute piss off out of the golf ball still. So you know that. And he's probably confident knowing to an extent he's figured out Augusta.
Yeah.
And if it rains, like it seems like it rains every single year at Augusta, and it doesn't play as firm and fast as it did last year, where it really got to him over the weekend. His short game, he couldn't handle some of the shots. He couldn't handle the greens without his toys and everything, his gadgets on the practice areas. He was so mad. Um, and so I think he'll have better control of that and better knowledge. So I'll go with Bryson on that one. But I mean, kudos to you. These have both been pretty tough.
I got one last one, and I'm gonna give you a 3 ball, and you have to
Uh-oh.
pick one out of this 3 ball. Hideki, JT, Cantlay. You have to pick one out of that 3 ball.
Hideki.
Yeah. Probably makes the most sense on paper, I would say.
My thing with JT right now is everyone's like, it's been like excruciating to watch the like off-season coverage. It's like
Yeah.
2025 is the year of JT. Everyone's picking him. Bounce back year for
Yeah.
JT. In my mind, I was like, guys, the bounce back year was 2024. Like, what are we
Yeah.
talking about here? The 2023 was the down year. And
Yeah.
we talked about Morikawa and his floor. JT still has the ceiling performances. We saw it this week, but we also saw the floor
The floor.
performances.
Yeah.
And those 2 rounds encapsulate Justin Thomas's last 2 years. He's done that shit so many times, just in the opposite order, honestly. Yeah, like the Scottish Open, he opened with the 63 or something, then shot at 80 and almost missed the cut. He did it at the Open. He shot 45 on a 9 at the Open.
So many times where he's just like he's lost the tournament via
9 holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. A 9-hole
And
stretch.
so, like, people are like, "Oh, Augusta's always gonna be perfect for him." And then, Andy, you look at his starts at the Players and the Majors since that win at the PGA Championship at Southern Hills. I think it's 13 starts now. It is 1 top 10 at the least major setup in Valhalla. 6 missed cuts, I believe, and no other finishes inside the top 30.
With like pretty non-functional performances anytime you get Condittis across the pond, and fairly like hasn't been totally rising to the occasion at modern US Open setups either.
No,
You know?
and so it's like, okay, he contends at PGA West.
Right.
Congratulations.
Right.
I would love to say it'd be Cantlay. I bet Patrick Cantlay to win the Masters.
Yeah, me too. I bet like a 40-1 in December. And I think
Yep.
he's still 40-1.
I think I have that same. We might
Yeah.
have that same ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have 2 losing bets already at Augusta. But man, Hideki is just someone who the driver's a bit worrisome. And honestly, like the major form hasn't been solid, but he played really well at the US Open last year.
Yeah.
So
Nasty short game right now too.
exactly. And that can keep
Yeah.
you alive during those 9-hole stretches when you don't have it.
Yeah. All right, brother. I got a jet. I know you got a jet, but anything you got cooking for this week? Where can everybody find your takes?
Just on the socials, P McDonald, CBS, the Twitter, the IG, the
Do you have
talk,
do you have a newsletter too, right?
the newsletter,
Yeah.
status update.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, kind of growing.
Good.
Surprisingly, I don't market it too well, which was a goal of mine for 2025 to push my stuff out there more. Have not accomplished that yet. Waiting to peak for major season.
Yeah, peak for major season.
But yeah, you can find me all over there.
Awesome, buddy. We'll do it again soon, my friend. This is a blast.
Yep. Appreciate you.